Hey guys, thanks again for joining me on my next video. Um, as you know, or may not know, but now you will know, one of the things I'm doing, or the thing I'm doing as Rising Tide Consulting Group is consulting, and I'm doing that for a myriad of different products that MSPs specifically use. Roost, Halo, Hoodoo, and a bunch of others, on top of some other things like actually doing project work. So in this session, I wanted to pay a little bit of attention to the PSA that I use internally, the PSA that the MSP I'm at in Telecomp uses, and the uh, PSA I'm partnered with, and I do a lot of consulting on. So I'm going to share my screen, and we will talk about HaloPSA, of course. Let's see. Yep, you can see HaloPSA. So this is a login page. And what I'm going to do is this is going to be a tutorial, very high level overview of the user interface. A couple of settings that you may want to look at. This is not going to go as in depth as the other videos I've done for Halo that are on the MSP Geek channel. This is going to strictly focus on the UI and the UX to how to find your way around Halo. So as soon as you log in, this is the uh, dashboard or the overview page. And these buttons are what we would call areas within Halo that you can get to. Most of these buttons will take you into places that have to do with tickets, basically these three. And then the rest are like, here's customers, calendar. Obviously, I'm not going to read all the labels to you. You can get and see where they go. Now, these buttons are also reflected on the side. And you can change the way this looks so that they're either smaller or bigger with text, without text, and so on and so forth. And I'll show you that in a minute. If you scroll down here, you have a graph of new tickets week by week. You are able to change what's displayed, and you also then have the recent activity of all the things that are going on. And again, you can change what's displayed here. Over here, you have a clock. My clock is displayed in 12-hour time. You're able to change that. By default, it's 24 hours. But this is what the front page looks like. And this is how you jump around to the different areas using the sidebar and using the bars here. The first thing I'm going to talk about is your preferences. If you click on your name or initials in the top right corner and go to My Account, you'll be given your profile view of all the different settings that you can look through, permissions that you have access to, client restrictions and access control that you have. Some of the stuff may not be visible to you if you're not an admin, and some of the stuff is visible to you, but is read only. The most important area that you'll be looking for as a user looking at My Account is going to be under the Preferences tab. Each of these things are going to tell you things like what's your profile color, it's your background color behind your initials, the theme of the application color itself, and so on and so forth. So notice that I can't change any of these settings, right? And what you'll find in Halo is that there are two types of configuration screens. One type of configuration screen is going to be where you can literally just click into the settings and change them. And then the other type of configuration screen requires you to actually press the edit button on top. If you're not looking for it, you can miss it. It has happened before. And here you can change the background color of your profile. You can change your theme, standard, light, or dark. Let's just flip it to light for right now. And then, of course, the application color, we can get rid of that red. Now, the navigation menu display is going to be based off of those things that I was talking about. Small icons is what we have right now. Default is going to be based off the global setting. Large icons will be large, and then large icons with labels will be large icons with labels, obviously. So we'll do large icons with labels just for right now. So you can see what that looks like. And now these sections are collapsible, and you can jump into usability, and then you can look at your language pack. So a lot of Halo is basically built using strings or keywords that are translated via dictionary. And that language pack is a collection of those strings with different options based off which language pack you have chosen. So essentially, if someone doesn't know English, or if there's a different language they're more comfortable in, they can change to that language so that it's in that language for their own experience. but when they communicate or when they're working with someone else who's in a different language, like they can both see it in their own native language. They don't have to both be in English. Obviously, the language pack does not affect any custom strings you type in, for example, if you're sending an email, but it does change the user interface so that the words like configuration, services, and so on and so forth, and I'll show that to you later on at some point. The main screen list type is table view, list preview mode, show details full screen, or show smaller detail windows alongside the list. We're going to get through all of these things because they come relevant in other places. Here, the main screen page size, we're going to make this 100, for example. This is total items per page. When in table view, pay attention to the small text. This is only used in table view. Pop-up display, open a new browser tab, or open a new pop-up window. What do you want to do? Navigation menu, pin to the left of the screen, or hide until the menu button is clicked. That is this button right here. And let's hide it so you can see what that looks like. Email signature is pretty straightforward. Home screen, this is where you configure the dashboard that shows up. So a default dashboard, or you can have it set like service desk or sales or profitability. The default will allow you to choose a chart as well as a dashboard. So you can choose a chart here that's more relevant to the information you want to see. Tickets, these are areas of different types of areas, the opportunities, assets, and tickets. And it'll give you the ability to control specific settings that, again, we're going to touch base on in a different area of this video. Default view for ticket history, that's going to be like the ticket history you saw down here, the activity feed. What do you want to see? This is the ticket history inside the ticket. That's going to be the actions pane. And I'll touch base back on that in a moment when we talk about the specific area as well. And here you can have it expand those actions or expand the most recent action only. And then the feed is what I was getting confused on. The default view for the feed is based off whether you want to see your own activity only, or all activity, or followed activity, or so on and so forth. Column profiles, we'll talk about. Opportunities has the same types of settings as tickets. It's just a different type of tickets. So you can change those three things again. Notifications are going to be notifications that you are subscribed to. The system administrator, or if you are the administrator, can build out notification templates or profiles. They can be pushed down by role, and you can see here it's inherited by role, administrator, or they can just be there for you to subscribe to. So you can come here and say, I want these two notifications, and then move on. Personal notifications I don't think are available for a non-admin, I believe. Non-admins do not have the ability to create personal notifications, but an admin can go to a profile of a user and create notifications that are specific to that agent and do not go to the whole group or are not available for other people to subscribe to. There's a setting, do not send me notifications, which I triggered. So for example, if you created a ticket, you would not receive any new ticket notifications for those tickets that you create. But if someone else created a new ticket, you would still receive that new ticket notification. Here you want to notify when other agents update tickets assigned to me. Send notifications for errors with incoming outgoing email and Halo Integrator. I'm going to turn that on. Send notifications that Halo Integrator has not run for X amount of hours. Let's say 24. So these are settings that you want to turn on because, like, if there's a problem with inbound outbound email, you want to know about it. And if there's a problem with the Halo Integrator, which is an external application that runs the scheduled tasks for Halo, then you want to know about that too. And then here you can say if the Halo Integrator has not run in 24 hours, we want to know about it because the Halo Integrator should be running at least once every 24 hours for at least one of the integrations that it's scheduled to run for. And we'll go into that further more what that means. Calendars and appointments. This just shows the default view and whether or not you want to be excluded from the resource booking. And then finally, whether you want to be included in the calendar integration for Exchange integration. So here we say always, generally speaking, the admin will generally set this to always for most users so that the calendars sync between Exchange and Halo. And that way, the resource booking can know when your calendar is really busy and make sure that you don't get double booked. And if there's a manager of your team or of the technicians team who wants to know what's on that calendar, having that sync from Exchange will give them that visibility. Templates are going to be ticket templates, like personal ticket templates that only you want to use. It's not going to be visible to the whole company. And I just got out of the settings. Let's go back down there and try that again. Templates are going to be ticket templates that only you will have access to. Canned text is going to be the same thing based off canned text. So these are going to be replies that will show up in the drop-down list when you try adding in text in like an email or something like that. I'm going to stop clicking into those things so that we can make it through the rest of the settings here. Screen layouts is basically the last part. So if we edit that and take a look, there's not much here in the client detail screen layout. We'll talk about what that is. That's probably not going to make it in this video. It's a little bit more advanced. And then, of course, approval delegation activated allows us to delegate someone else to do our approvals. Like if we know we're out of the office and we're part of an advisor or approval board, I can designate Amir Saeed to be an approver during the time period of the 14th and the 15th because I'm not going to be around. And that'll allow him to basically run or approve things in my stead. He'll have my vote, so to speak, as they say. So I'm going to go back up here and change a couple of the things that we did because I want to make sure that we show you what that looks like. Custom color, we'll do this one. And then we're going to set this to large icons with labels. And then finally, we were going to set this to 100. And we were going to say navigation menu, hide until the menu button is clicked. And then we'll save that for right now, and you'll see what that looks like. So now this entire screen is going to change. And now it looks very different. I don't have this bar on the side. I have the hamburger menu up here, and this will pop that out like that. Obviously, my coloring is very different. And yeah, that's everything else is basically, the layout's basically the same. So let's talk about some of the things we ran into under my account preferences. One of the first things we did under tickets, we found there's a feed setting, default view for feed. All activity, follow activities, activity, agent activity, my activity only, activity for my tickets, activity where I am the account manager. In this case, these are different views within the feed. The feed is right here, recent activity, and you have the ability to jump through these different things to see what's going on and what I did recently and stuff like that. That feed is also available right here, this RSS looking button, and you have the same exact functionality that pops out on the side. So you can easily find what you just found, what you just worked on by jumping through my activity, for example, and seeing all the things that we just did to go back and repop them both open again quickly. You can also open up the feed in a new window. So that's what that setting does. And setting that, if there's a specific preference you want to say, I always want to look at my activity, and then I'll switch it if I don't want to see mine, or I want to see all activity for my ticket specifically, no matter who does it, and I want this to be my default, under my account, preferences, tickets, that's where you would go to change that right here and say activity for my tickets only, and that becomes now your new default that will be used. So if I come back here, and it's already set that way. Okay, so that's the preferences. I went really quick. If it was a problem, please rewind, pause it, play it at a slower speed. I am trying to get through a lot here. The Halo platform is extremely comprehensive. There's a lot to dig into. So yeah, sorry if I go too fast. The next thing that we want to talk about is, let's get off this screen. Let's actually dig into these areas. So we have service desk projects opportunities. Before I open them up, I want to talk about what these actually are. I call them areas. And if you actually go to configuration as an admin and you look for areas, you'll see that areas do exist. There's service desk and projects. And then if you go to the sales settings, which is somewhere here, by the way, I would strongly encourage you to use the search as often as possible instead of trying to find your way around, because it's very difficult. Here you have hide the default opportunity ticket area. So I can check that box. And then if I go back to my home screen, you'll notice that opportunities is gone. And what I can do is I go back to configuration and areas, and we have the ability to create a new area called opportunities or whatever we want, and we can choose the use case to be opportunities. So we can hide the default one and use a custom one if we want to, or we can leave the default one visible, which I'm going to go turn that back on right now. And let's talk about what areas actually are for real. Like I mentioned that. By the way, I want to call out, if you notice, there's no edit button up here. I mentioned that there's two different types of settings. This is one of those screens that literally, as you click, it'll change stuff. So careful what you click. Don't click anything you don't mean to save. Because if you do click something and you don't pay attention to it, the setting takes effect immediately in most of these screens that are in the configuration. So let's go back to areas and let's take a look at what this is doing. So we have a service desk area. This is one of the built-in default areas. The ticket area name is service desk. Sequence and list is 10. The sequence and list is basically going to be how it gets ordered on the list here, right? So 10 is going to be number 1. Entity name, so that is every area is a collection of tickets, let's just say. Or let's say it's a collection of ticket records, so we don't get confused in the verbiage that's about to come down. Every area is a collection of ticket records that exist, and you can call those ticket records whatever you want. You can call them help desk tickets, you can call them incident, you can call them proactive ticket, you can call them project. It doesn't matter what it is, but there's going to be some sort of name for that entity. In this case, it's ticket for singular and tickets for plural. And the use case is the ticket area. This is the official term, not an entity term. The tickets area is going to be all those tickets that are not sales related. Button icon, you can choose any of the icons that are available within the platform. By default, it's the ticket. And the default view that exists can be set from here as well. You can do by team. You can do default filter profile, default call-in profile, default template group, and then ITIL ticket type, default ticket type, and then prompt to select service when creating a new ticket is a setting. And then you have the ability to enable a project view in the tree or show the new ticket button that exists. So we'll go through and look at that in a moment. The thing I want to look at is the filters tab first. In this case, what is an area exactly? We said it's a collection of tickets or entities that are tickets or ticket records or whatever it is you want to call it to not be confusing. But how does it know which ones to bring into that collection, right? So the filters tab is how this works. And this is where a lot of magic behind Halo comes in. The filter tab allows you to create a filter from any field on the ticket, any custom field, any standard field that exists within the ticket. You can say if the summary contains WAN down. Now we have a collection of all tickets that contain WAN down. If you want to remove that and set this to only look at tickets that are, assigned to a specific person, I think it's agent is the record includes, and then here we would have literally, Mendy, Patricia, Robert. So you can choose that. So this is what I would call a layer 1 filter. And I'm specifying layer 1 for a reason. We'll get to that in a moment. So the filter exists to bring that initial collection of tickets into the view or into this area called service desk. Permissions are pretty straightforward. If there are no rows, everyone will have access to it. If there are any rows whatsoever, everyone except the row specified will not have access to it. Only the row specified will have access. So we can say first line support is the only one who can see this area, and suddenly nobody else can see it. If where there's nobody specified, it will default to an allow all, okay? I'm not going to save any changes here. I'm just going to call your attention back to these settings. Just remember, keep these in mind as we go to the next part, okay? I'm not going to look at the other areas. It's basically all the same. It's just different filters that get used. So projects is just project tickets. And let's go ahead and actually open up the service desk area. So this is what the main screen looks like, where all the tickets are collected. And there are multiple different views that you can get to. So I'm going to look at all 7 tickets here because we want to see more than just these 2. So we've got a few tickets here. Notice we've got like the client, we've got the user site, we've got the ticket ID. There's this bar here next to tickets. That bar indicates whether a ticket's been read or unread. And that follows based off of the technician that's assigned. So an unassigned ticket well, generally speaking, will not be marked red normally. You would have to right click and mark it as red, and then mark it as red here. Or you can mark it as unread and mark that as unread. And then you can see that the bar here is unread. And that's what indicates the ticket has not been seen since the last time it was updated. So this view overall that we're looking at is called the table view. And you can change it up here. You got the tile view, you've got the Kanban view, you've got the calendar view, you've got the Gantt view, which you can do based off task or based off agent, or you've got the table view, which is the very first one we were on, so it's hidden initially. It only shows up when you flip away from it. The current view you have selected is not visible on the dropdown, so that's why we weren't able to see it. So that's the view of the tickets that are being displayed on the main area, okay? Before we get further than that, we want to look at the side here, okay? So if you notice up here, it says search tickets. This is actually a search bar. We can come in here and search for something like internet, and it'll search for tickets that have the name internet. And you have the ability to adjust the options within the search, right? You can say when it was reported. You can add in additional filters. You can add in, and these are filters based off fields that exist in the ticket, by the way. And then you can also change this date time to be a different date time filter. And that's basically it for the search. The text goes up here. If you want to exit the search, you just hit the X button right here, and you're back to your normal view, okay? So that's the very top area up here is the searching for stuff. And that's how it does the searching. And then exiting out will remove the search, okay? The second area that you can click into is what's called the view, okay? So we called this the view, but this is also called the view, and it's the view of the sidebar, essentially. So if I click into it, you'll notice it says select a view. There's a few different types of views that we can get to. We can look at tickets by agent, tickets by team, tickets by type, tickets by status, or we can just look at all tickets and screw it. So if we look at all tickets, this is just what we see, all of them, right? If we go to tickets by status, we can see there's 2,109 closed and a bunch, 1 in progress and 7 new, right? Now, if we go to tickets by team, we're back to where we were before. And this is a breakdown of the different teams and people within those teams that will show the number of tickets assigned to each team. So here we can see 1 in second line support, 7 in first line support. And then if we expand each one, it'll show us the number of tickets broken down by each agent. 4 unassigned, 1 to Amir Saeed, and 2 to Mendy. So this is the tickets by team view, and then you have tickets by agent, which is just the agents that are broken down. It doesn't matter on which team they're on, okay? There's the first view that I skipped is called My Lists, and we're going to come back to that in a moment. If we end up in this view, select a view, and we don't actually want to change the view that we're on, we can just hit the X here, and it'll take us back to where we were. So here, let's go back to tickets by team. And then notice down here, we've got mine all, which is separate. This is not really a team. So just notice that. We'll talk about it in a moment. And then the other thing is that we have open tickets here and we have open tickets here. So this thing and this thing are the same thing. It's called filter profiles. If I come here and I change this to open tickets, including SLA hold, notice that it changes this to open tickets, including SLA hold. So if I change this to all tickets, it changes that to all tickets too. And notice now we can see there's 1 closed ticket under my agent, and there's 400, 1,400 and something tickets that are closed under the first line support, with most of them being unassigned. So this will change the filter profile, okay? And this changes the view that we're looking that filter profile in. So if I go tickets by status and then look at all tickets, again, it's not really going to do much because we're already seeing the status closed. But if I go to tickets by type, for example, and go to open tickets only, then the tickets by type is going to adjust, and I'm only going to see those 8 tickets. If I flip to closed tickets, I see all 2,100. If I do open tickets including SLA hold, I still only see 8. So the filter profile and the view work in conjunction to display the tickets that you want to see. Now, how does that work? Well, let's go into the My Lists and we'll take a look at that. Actually, no, sorry. Let's go back to tickets by team and let's click on this, open tickets. If we click on the filter profile underneath the view here, open tickets, you'll see it says select a filter profile. And we've got a few options here. We also have the ability to create a new one. So we can come in here, we can view and edit the existing filter profiles, or we can create a new one. And if you notice, the new filter profile has a very similar screen to the area. Okay, so this is like level 3 of the filtering of how bringing tickets into a specific view. So remember, I said the area was like layer 1. The filter profile is like layer 3. Now, what's layer 2? How does that work? Well, layer 2 is going to be the view that we're looking at. And specifically, it's not going to be the tickets by team or tickets by type. It's going to be a custom list that you create. So you can come in here and you can create a list. And the lists are basically predefined views that you've created that don't pay attention to the by team or by agent or filter profile that you're changing back and forth. All you're doing is you're going to create a new list and you'll create a name for that list. You'll tell it where it's going to get used. You can choose a service desk or you can say everywhere. And then that list visibility, by default, if you're not an admin, it will be restricted to your own agent. Show counts and tree view is going to be set that control on whether or not you want to see the total number of tickets in the list on the side panel. So normally I recommend turning that on. If there's a large number of tickets, then it may slow down while it tries to count. If you have a large number of lists and you don't need them on all of them, then maybe turn them off for most of them or the ones you don't need, just so that you can help streamline performance as much as possible. Now, the column profile has an option. We can choose what column profile to use. We're going to come back to that in a moment. We haven't talked about column profiles yet, but the display type is something that we do know about. This is going to be the type of view we're looking at the tickets on. It's going to be table or tile or Kanban. So you can lock it to a specific view for this list. So you can basically create a list of your tickets, lock it to table view and be like list of tickets. And then you can create a calendar view of the same exact tickets and call it calendar or scheduled tickets or something like that. So that you can lock that to the calendar so you can quickly flip back and forth to see what tickets you need to be addressing when and stuff like that. Now, this last checkbox is really cool. It's show in the by team view. So if you remember, there was that item that was listed in the by team view that wasn't part of the teams. And that's what this is. This is basically, we'll take the list and show it under there. And you can have it show up under the main tree, or you can have it show up under a specific team if you want. So the filters tab is basically the same exact thing as the filters for the areas. The difference is, in this case, this is what I would call the layer 2 filtering, where you start off with the area and you bring in a wide range of tickets into the area. Any ticket of type incident is now in the service desk area. And then you come in and say, well, I want a list of all weigh-in tickets that have been dealt with, all weigh-in down tickets that have been dealt with for the last who knows how long. Now, I'm not working out of the all tickets filter profile, so I need my list to work off of a different filter profile than my normal standard working filter profile. So the filter profile I'm choosing is going to be all tickets, or it can be open tickets, or open tickets including SLA hold, or it can be something completely different that you create brand new and custom. And then you take that either wider or narrower number of tickets into your view, and then you filter it additionally, again, using the same exact criteria. So you basically have 3 layers of tickets, of ticket filtering, to collect those tickets into the single view. So then you can see all the bad hard drives that have occurred over the last who knows how long. And you can map that out on a calendar or Kanban view, or or even just a table so you can see what's happening. And that's how the lists work. So each of these that exists are lists that exist and are visible potentially in the by team view. If I show in the by team view and stick it on a first line support and save that. Now, if I flip back to the by team, you'll see the mine all is the list that was already there. And under first line support, you now also have a triage ticket. Now, if you notice, this triage ticket does not matter or account for or change at all if you change the filter profiles, right? The other ones will, but the lists themselves are completely ignored by the filter profile being selected because of the fact that it's built in. The list already has a filter profile being selected, and therefore it ignores the filter profile you have selected while you're changing it back and forth in the by team view. In fact, in the my list view, you don't even have the ability of choosing a filter profile to select. Okay. All right, so that was a lot, right? And the basic core concept that we're talking about is that tickets can be filtered down into groups, into 3 different layers of filtering that can combine and coalesce into a very narrow view that gives you like a multi-point perspective so that you can get just the right tickets that you want to see in, and you can quickly jump back and forth between them. So the last thing that we want to talk about here is the column profile. And you do that by editing columns. So if you edit columns, you get prompted to choose your column profile or create a new one, right? So the column profile is basically a profile. It's a collection of settings on that describe how you want to view the table that you're looking at. Okay. So if we right now we're on service desk view, if we edit that, we can see number 1 what the name is, where it gets used, the list visibility, right? In this case, again, as an admin, I can set it to all agents, but by default, if you're not an admin, it'll restrict it to just your agent. Or you can restrict it to your use of your team. And then you have the ability to choose what columns you want to see. Okay, so these are columns that exist on a ticket. You also have the ability to add in custom fields to as columns, which is really cool. Now, let's just add this in for 1 second. Let's see if this works. Yep. So now we have access type up here, right? And we have the ability to quickly filter these tickets. So notice how I did that. You can do this. Let me jump to over here real quick where there's a bunch of tickets. You've got a lot of example closed tickets, so this is probably not a good method, but I can filter for MSP advisors, and now I have just 2 tickets, right? And I can filter for tickets that started, well, these are all have the exact same timestamp, so this is not really helpful, but I can filter for high, and then of course, now I have high tickets only. And I can also filter for those that have a specific access type or any other custom field that I add in that's searchable. Okay. Let's go back here and edit this again and remove this. These are column profiles that you can create. And then you have the ability of setting that column profile to be used under a list that you want, or to be your default view under tickets when it's looking by table. That was the settings that we saw under the preferences tab, under the tickets area, and under the opportunities area. They have different types of column profiles for tickets and opportunities, and you can have a different default for one versus the other. The only other thing I'm going to show you in the columns is that you have the ability to come in here and actually group by the column, and you can override the header. So if we were to group by client site user, for example, in this case, actually, because we have so many example tickets, this does not work in practice, but for right now it does. We can group by summary, right? So we can now easily identify how many tickets that exist that have example closed ticket as a summary. I can come out here and now we have 2. I can remove this and suddenly we have like 400, 100, because we can only see 100 tickets at a time, right? Our table view is only 100 at a time. So we can come in here and keep shifting through 2, 3, 4, and notice that we have just one record to see, like, oh, everyone's this example closed ticket, cool. Let's just keep everything here as example closed ticket. If we go to Menti Green, now we have error message when starting Excel, right? So if we were to view all tickets together, we would be able to see, boom, 99 example closed tickets and 1 error message when starting Excel. So you can build out a list of things, and then you can say, well, we want to know the clients too. So I'm going to come back here, edit columns, and edit this temporary column profile. And I'm going to move the summary up above, and then client site user right below that. And I'm going to group by this one too. And then use without saving. And now suddenly we've got a much cleaner screen. Right? We've got 3 here. We've got 97 under Terry's chocolate. And I can just check all these 97. Well, not those 97. I actually don't know if this will work. Let's just try it real quick. These are all unassigned right now. I'm just going to assign them all to Amir and see what happens. Yeah, it doesn't look like because I can't. Yeah, it does not bulk select just because you're selecting in the header. So that's a feature we can put into Halo to request for easy management. But you are able to quickly navigate throughout the tickets using the groups to identify what's going on. You can group by status, you can group by a bunch of different things to build out your view and how you want it to look. So that is the basics of Halo. Opportunities works the same way. Projects and Service Desk works the same way. Without getting too far into the configuration area, that gives you an idea of using and managing tickets and the Halo UI.